Alrighty, I've been hearing a lot about Trump cutting funding to South Africa, so I'll pop in a video and take it from there.
Donald Trump has also announced that he will end aid to South Africa over alleged land seizures. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed a law that allows some land to be confiscated without compensation.
What do they mean by some? That's the problem. That leaves it open to a lot of interpretation.
Other African countries will also be affected by the US president's order to cut overseas aid to slash billions from the federal budget.
Donald Trump has turned his eyes to South Africa.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa. The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
Trump has threatened to cut off all funding to South Africa until an investigation into alleged land confiscation is carried out. Trump's threat comes after South African leaders introduced a law allowing the state to seize privately owned land or property for public use.
Holy crap, that's worse than I thought. They're not just talking about seizing land, but also property. Like, hey, that's a nice tractor you got there. We're gonna take it. Because a tractor's property, right?
South Africa rejects the allegation, saying the law is similar to ones other governments like the UK already have.
Yeah, copying the UK? That's not a flex. You know what they say about the UK on the internet, right? You can't spell cucked without it.
Because you passed an Exploration Act, therefore Trump would withhold funding to South Africa. And they said, let's not immobilize Africa. Let's withhold minerals to US. That is it. If they don't give us money, let's not give them minerals.
But wait, doesn't the US trade for those minerals? Trade is trade. Trump's talking about cutting foreign aid because it's wasteful spending that's not benefiting the US. And you're gonna stop trading minerals because they're not giving you money? Yeah, that's a bad idea.
The new law allows for the state to take land without compensation under certain circumstances and if it serves the public's interest.
But who says it serves the public interest? Oh, right, politicians.
Land ownership has long been a divisive issue in South Africa, where most private farmland is owned by white people who make up less than 8% of the population 3 decades after the end of apartheid. The Expropriation Act, South Africa says, is aimed at addressing this economic and racial inequality.
Let's pick up some of those points with Vincent Magwenya. He's a spokesperson to South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and joins us from Johannesburg. Good to have you here. Welcome to DW. Will President Ramaphosa change course as a result of President Trump's threats?
No, we are a sovereign country. We're guided by its own constitution.
A sovereign nation that relies on another sovereign nation for aid money. So I guess you don't need that aid money then, huh?
We believe that the new, or rather the amended Expropriation Act is in line with our constitution, which does provide for the expropriation of land for public usage and in the public interest. And therefore, there is no need for us to change any course. We believe that the Trump administration and President Trump in particular have been misinformed about the intention of this act. They've also been misinformed about the true spirit of the act, which does, in accordance with the Constitution, provide safeguards for those property owners whose properties are targeted for expropriation. The
Property owners whose land is targeted. Gee, I wonder if the government will go after people they don't like.
Act is talking about. It's unused land which can be utilized for public purposes.
He talks about how there's systems that have to be engaged, but he doesn't even mention the systems. Then he says that unused land would be seized, because, it's just unused land. But what if it's privately owned unused land? You're still taking somebody's land, whether it's used or not. And then who sets the definition of used land? Oh, right. That would be politicians.
Seen is an announcement on X, as well as the clip that you've just shown on that news piece. And so we don't have the information, but you will have known by now, as a journalist from an outlet, a news outlet that has representation here in South Africa, if there was any land being confiscated. South Africa has an independent judiciary. South Africa has an independent free media whose rights are guaranteed within our constitution. There is no way that if such was happening, as falsely described by President Trump, will have not been known by the world and will have been kept under wraps.
You've made you've made your position quite clear on that. The president's been misinformed. But
independent media, he says. If you ask the CNN if they were independent, they would say yes. If you asked the CBC if they were independent, they would say yes. If you asked the BBC if they were independent, they would say yes. So they must be independent.
If he goes ahead with this threat, how much difference would this loss of US aid make?
Well, we're not dependent on aid with respect to funding our public programs. The largest funding...
Forgive me for interrupting, but no one's saying that. No, you're not dependent on it. My question is, how much difference would its loss make?
Well, I was explaining that the largest program is PEPFAR, which constitutes only 17% of our overall HIV/AIDS program. The remainder of that program is funded by the fiscus. Outside of PEPFAR, we don't have any significant aid programs that are funded by the US, and therefore it will not make that much difference as we speak. PEPFAR was suspended before this announcement was made, and adjustments are already being made to ensure that treatment to those patients is not interrupted in any manner.
Okay, so US aid is minimal. Then why are you making such a stink about the US cutting it then?
Okay, so today Mr. Trump threatens to cut off all aid. Tomorrow he may get rid of the preferential tariff system and perhaps even impose tariffs, accusing you of being too close to China. How does your government plan to navigate ties with the US over the next 4 years?
Any trade relationship is based on mutual benefits. There's no trade relationship that benefits a single party. The US has products, goods that it needs from South Africa. Similarly, we have products, goods, and services that we require from the US.
And that's why Trump wants to cut aid to South Africa, because it's not very beneficial to the US. So wrapping this video up, this guy continues talking about mutual concern and such. They bring on a woman who basically reiterates exactly what this guy said. So anyway, that's it for my thoughts on this matter. Take care out there in Clown World.